Yeah, so my talk, it's going to be about not really anything specifically tech. I would essentially speak about things in the tech industry, but mostly my talk is about how you can make the most of these skill sets, build up on a career that you aspire to, and in the process, because that's something that again the team at Mindfire emphasized upon. They wanted me to speak upon my journey, and that's something I am not really fascinated to do, because that's more of just putting a story across. Rather, there are few important takeaways that I want you to probably learn in the process, and that will fundamentally improve, if not drastically bring about a change in your lives. So the very first point that I want to mention about is, आज की तारीख में, see, when we talk of tech, entrepreneurship is something that goes hand in hand. They're like husband and wife. And कौन किसकी ले रहा है हमें समझ में नहीं आ रहा है. That's because there's so much of thing about entrepreneurship happening in the country, and that brings us to a fundamental question, that when did entrepreneurship become so cool? Right? Businesses have been around for a very long time, and there is a very important study, a medical science study, that says that entrepreneurs are the most loneliest people on the planet. 4 लोग बैठ के काम कर रहे हैं स्टार्टअप में, लोग ही नहीं है. So when did entrepreneurship become so cool, and why is it that entrepreneurship is tagged as hashtag living the life wala Facebook and Instagram thing? So that brings us to a fundamental difference. Don't really aspire to be that figurehead that you get to see these days, because as far as motivation goes, these people have become our icons, have become our public figures, and do not treat them as important individuals in an industry, because there is this fundamental difference: true entrepreneurs versus Instagram or Facebook entrepreneurs. So what has happened in the last 5 or 6 years, this entire entrepreneurial or tech revolution has given birth to Facebook and Instagram entrepreneurs. Like every girl on Instagram is an aspiring model, every boy on Instagram is an aspiring entrepreneur, right? Some hashtag startup life. जो भी काम करे सुबह उठ के hashtag startup life. So that has what has created this drift in our our culture, our essence of how we look upon tech, how we look upon shaping our careers, and that is not good, because for ourselves, for the future of this nation, the entire process of how we use to determine our career choices is at stake. And that is not good, right? So this entire generation, I mean, true entrepreneurs are out there working in the field. They are building upon real world change, right? Like that guy Arunachalam Muruganathan, the pad man, right? He never used Instagram stories and made stories every day ki bhai dekho main bana raha hu, I'm trying to solve for the menstrual hygiene challenge in India. He never did that. Hashtag startup life nahi kiya usne. But then he did do some fundamentally important work. This is a very big gap that we need to understand for, right? So as far as the concept of motivation goes, this has somewhat really helped me. Ye beech mein jo hai, it's not bhag, it's called BHAG. So I want you guys to probably, after this lecture, just go home and search it. It's called a big, hairy, audacious goal. And this has a lot of Instagram and LinkedIn and Medium posts have been around this concept. It's something very good. It helps you make a more well-informed decision with respect to your career. So what you're deeply passionate about, what you can be best in the world at, and what drives your actions and decisions. This is something beautiful. It's called BHAG. Similarly, there's another concept. It's called Ikigai. On this, it's a Japanese concept about living your life to the fullest. And Japanese मैं समझता हूँ हमेशा से आगे थे. Whether it was coming up with laptops or better electronics in comparison to at least their Chinese counterparts, to solving for life, they were always ahead in this race. And this is beautiful, because हमें इतना ज़्यादा force किया जाता है ना, passion, दिल की सुनो, दिमाग की सुनो. There's so much of conflict within ourselves that we need to really, when it comes to making more informed career choices, this is beautiful. So what it says is, there can be 4 possibilities: what you love, what you are good at, what you can be paid for, and what the world needs. आप इनके summation में देखिए तो what you love and what you are good at, that's typically your passion, right? A higher calling, what the world needs. Similarly, vocational training, what the world needs and what you can be paid for, that's where vocation is. And then what you are good at and what you can be paid for, उनके बीच में profession lie करता है. इन चारों के आप cross देखिए तो passion and mission के बीच में there's delight and fullness but no wealth, because generally that's what happens, right? When you're trying to address a higher calling, कमाई एक तरफ रह जाती है. So Ikigai is the wonderful summation of all this, and this will probably help you identify what is that domain in which your passion is also being fulfilled. There is also some amount of financial security. There's also a higher calling. You are addressing a mission, and that is beautiful. So Ikigai that's the concept. Find your Ikigai. So this is something that will, if you are still in the zone where you are trying to figure out who to marry, what career choice to have for a future, what domain to specialize in, this will really help you guys, right? So now taking you back through my journey, I am currently a principal policy officer at the UN Secretariat. It's in New York. I work for UNDP, which is the United Nations Development Program. There are the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. So I work on the analytics and fund allocation for that. I passed through Harvard earlier this year. I was there for a good 2 years. उसके पहले मैं Apple के साथ employed था. जब 16 में आया था, I was product manager for Apple. I was headquartered at the Asia Pacific HQ in Singapore. That's pretty much what my life has been about. For most parts of my career, I was working for Apple. Now, one significant milestone of my career was my work with Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. This pretty much helped me distinguish myself as an entrepreneur. And that is what I want each one of you to probably just take note, that it is these minor changes, micro level changes that you might do to your overall career building process that will result in macro changes. There was this beautiful thing, like Novak Djokovic, the tennis player, from 2012 to 2015, he showed incremental change in his career. His net worth went up, his amount of Grand Slams he won just went up, his world rankings went up. He doesn't work on those macro level changes. He works on those fine tunings, the micro level changes in his overall work life. So entrepreneurship always is something that fascinated me, but more than the fascination, it was about problem solving, because as entrepreneurs, as techies, we are problem solvers first, and that approach has to come back to our mindset. And in that order, so we co-founded a startup with 3 of my co-founders. It's called Spacify. We pioneered on a technology called Outernet. Outernet is a new level of interconnectivity. In the 90s came intranet, which most of our parents used, and the first 2 rows they themselves used, right, because of their age. But let's not go there. But intranet, right? What we use between cubicles. Then came internet, interconnected network of cables, right? So internet is based on a technology called the deep sea cable framework, right? So that's how our entire telecommunications process has been working. But has that solved the digital divide? That is the fundamental question. In a country like India, 3/4 of the country is still not connected to the internet, and that is a huge challenge. And that is where Outernet provides a solution. It's satellite-powered internet. And that is what motivated us to work in this direction. So that is where my work with Dr. Kalam happened. That was in 2014, pretty much in 15 as well. We worked on developing, see, as a startup in this domain, one of the first challenges we faced was not having enough spectrum. Because in this domain, in order to provide bandwidth or to run a startup in this domain on the satellite framework, you need to have bandwidth. And for that, you need to bid for spectrum. Spectrum bidding is a business in itself, right? Such as the 4G spectrum. In fact, so much that the 2G spectrum became a ghotala, a scam in itself, right? So there was so much of money involved. So we could hardly sustain. And INSAT 4A, which is the primary telecommunication satellite of our country, was hardly able to provide us any bandwidth. So that is where we came up with a unique solution. Dr. Kalam, because he was a career scientist all his life, and because our agenda here was clear, we want to provide internet for free to rural and underserved areas in a bid to increase the development of the nation, because internet is no longer a luxury, it is a necessity, right? It provides the 2 basic lifelines, knowledge and connectivity, that every human needs to grow in life, to find a better job, to get married, you name it, or to open a startup. Internet is fundamentally important to our lives, and that rural India would definitely require. So as part of the digitalization drive, this was our motive, and that really connected with him. And that's where he helped us. He suggested that the answer to our infrastructure problems was to design a CubeSat. So satellite technology has undergone a lot of development. There are nanosats, CubeSats, microsats. So these are forms of satellites. So we have now a CubeSat of our own. It's 10 centimeter length, breadth, and height. It's a nano satellite that was launched as part of the PSLV C-29 mission, Helios 1 mission in December 2015. ISRO is a really जुगाड़ू organization. 104 satellite एक mission में भेज देता है. इस तरह के news आपने कभी ना कभी पढ़ी होगी. This was part of one such launch. So our entire launch, it only cost us $5,000 in 2015. That's really cheap because they're technically putting a satellite in orbit. So this was an important milestone that really helped us understand, visualize what Outernet is all about. So that's what my life was all about until when I realized that मुझे धंधा डाल के नहीं बैठना है. I don't want to sit for the rest of my life running a startup. And that's when the Harvard thing happened. And that's when the UN thing happened. And that's how where I am today. Because this is, so your life is a sum effort of your time, the amount of hard work you put in, and a broad vision of where you want to be. So if you just follow this vague roadmap, you will at least end up where you aspire to do, right? It's not about the final destination, it's about the journey through which you grow. So entrepreneurship, like I spoke, there are two forms of it, right? Broadly speaking, Ajivika, right? People who do entrepreneurship as a means of livelihood, which is what we have been doing in India. Then comes the bigger dream, the Silicon Valley version of it, people who are trying to solve for bigger problems, people who are trying to change the world, such as Mark Zuckerberg. He's trying to solve for connectivity, though in the process he's himself under deep waters. Coming down to Elon Musk, right? He's trying to solve for huge challenges. India mein kya hoga na? If you try to solve for huge challenges, you won't be able to solve your own life, because in that process you will be 25, 26, 27. You wouldn't have financial stability. You will have family pressure. You will probably not be eligible to get married, and all those kind of abnormal issues would start happening, and then you would just leave the dream of being an entrepreneur or visualizing your tech dreams to the next level. That will just go away. So that's where it's really important to find a fine balance where you can make money. So whenever you think of anything to do with tech or entrepreneurship, remember, apart from practical feasibility, there should also be financial viability. Do not take this assumption that, because a lot of entrepreneurs get so inspired, they start working, and then financial viability doesn't really happen. So practical feasibility and financial viability, you should always keep that in mind whenever you want to do something in this domain. And then obviously, when we talk of entrepreneurship, a lot of people in India, they often keep saying that it's about street smartness. I beg to differ. If you keep thinking that entrepreneurship is about street smartness, your startup will be confined to the streets. It will never go global. So in order to go global, you have to have these three things: core competency, conceptual clarity, and technical expertise. Though he is not here with us today, but then है Bangalore में है, यहाँ conference में नहीं आए हैं. But then Chinma sir told me he has, his educational background is also so rich from BITS Pilani IIM Ahmedabad. Education always helps. तो ये जो dropout का culture है ना, ये कुछ नहीं है. This is a PR strategy for, अब अगर Zuckerberg बोल देता कि भैया मैं PhD करने के बाद Facebook शुरू किया, उसको तो भाव नहीं मिलता. Right? So this is all a part of, media is feeding us with stories, and our mind, our decision-making ability is highly dominated by the media's version of it. And that is fundamentally wrong in order to develop, in order to, build upon a well-informed career. And that is very important, because as a motivational track, that is probably the single piece of motivation you need, that do not believe the media. Right? That is so important. So एक मैं किसी कॉन्फ्रेंस में गया था, वहां पे वन टॉप जर्नलिस्ट ऑफ द कंट्री, एनडीटीवी पे जिनको आप देखते हैं, बिकॉज ये रिकॉर्ड हो रहा है मैं नाम नहीं लूंगा, वो खुद ये बोले कि हम सब बिक चुके हैं, आप टीवी देखना ही बंद कर दो. राइट? दैट इज द स्टेट ऑफ मीडिया. एंड दैट ब्रिंग्स मी टू अनदर इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट. राइट? व्हाई एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप और दिस एंटायर डिस्कशन इज सो नेसेसरी? बिकॉज education can only teach you so much, and entrepreneurship, it's so much more important than an MBA degree. So how many of you have already done the MBA or planning to do the great MBA or aspire to do it anytime around higher education? कौन है भाई? हाथ उठाओ बिंदास. तो मैं 100% यकीन है अभी नहीं करोगे, but then घर में माँ बाप जरूर बोल रहे होंगे. Right? See, the truth is, MBA जो मैंने भी भुगता है, is the biggest scam of the world education system, and in specific in India. Please record this, put this on record. जो करना है करो. MBA is the biggest scam of the education industry. Why? All through your engineering or through your graduation, that's the only thing that's sticking you. You are least bothered about passing your graduation or your engineering with good grades. MBA करना है यार. And then after those 4 treacherous years, you prepare for CAT, MAT, ZAT, this, that. Then ultimately you sell a kidney, because that is equal to the fee of MBA colleges in this country. Compare IIM Ahmedabad, Indian School of Business Hyderabad, The fees is so high that it can probably subsidize the private education of a country like Pakistan or Bangladesh. एक आदमी का fee, right? एक आदमी का fee. And uske baad, on the first day of your MBA, your dean will appear before you and say that management cannot be taught. Management is an art. तो मेरे से इतनी मेहनत क्यों कराई? इतने fee क्यों भराई? Right? So therefore, an MBA cannot teach you so much. And then a startup experience or learning from your examples, it prepares you for a better interdisciplinary life. Someone was asking about AI. It is this process that prepares you rather than a degree, right? And at a startup, from the peon to the CEO, you are everything. You are handling every single domain. You get knowledge. Even if you are a techie or a coder, you have to inadvertently focus on the financial aspects of it because paisa aapka ja raha hai at the end of the day. Also, sales and marketing, by default, every entrepreneur seekh jata hai. You don't need an MBA degree for that, right? So it's so much more better than an MBA degree. And then people, often say, startup karna hai, fund kahan se leke aaye? आपका इन्वेस्टर आपके घर में बैठा है और उस इन्वेस्टर का नाम है आपके माँ और बाप. अगर आप लड़की हो तो आपकी शादी के लिए पैसा इकट्ठा किया, अगर आप लड़के हो तो आपके MBA के लिए इकट्ठा किया है. 35 लाख रुपया, 25 लाख रुपया, 20 लाख रुपया और 2 साल का इन्वेस्टमेंट आपके स्टार्टअप को कहीं और ही लेके जा सकता है. वो 2 साल जो या 1 साल आप जो MBA को दोगे और जो 20, 25, 30, 35 लाख आप लगाओगे वो अपने स्टार्टअप में लगा लो. हो सकता है आपके साथ वाले जो प्लेसमेंट बैठे हो आप उसी कॉलेज में प्लेसमेंट के लिए जा रहे होंगे. So there is a huge advantage there, right? So coming back to the more motivational part of it, थोड़े छिछोरे jokes को side रखते हुए, I personally believe that this entire process is not very good because probably 10, 20, 30 years down the line, the future of India is at stake because it is this generation that is going to lead the future, right? And we already know even the governance is at stake. We just have one contender, that is Modi ji. Look at the opposition. It is a result of the same process. Rahul Gandhi is technically our peer, right? He is a result of the same process. And this is going to happen to our generation as well. So the future, the leadership of India is at stake in that entire process. And that is not good, guys, because so we need to understand these topics. And then when we talk of Dr. Kalam, because I worked with him close to around 1.5 years, met him a lot of times. And there was this one thing that he would often say is about making India a knowledge superpower. He never emphasized that we want to make India a dominant superpower such as the US, which these countries have often been doing. He wanted to make India a knowledge superpower, and that is a beautiful thought. We should often focus on knowledge acquisition more than trying to build upon a dominance in our career or in reference to being a superpower, right? Also following our dreams. So this is something that he often spoke about. And as far as, making a well-informed career choice is concerned, there's this concept called passion versus fascination that I'm often, I often say this to youngsters or to people of your age. See, आपको शाहरुख खान पसंद है or do you like performing arts or theater? आपको कल्पना चावला पसंद है or do you like astrophysics or aeronautics? You like Chetan Bhagat और वो नहीं भी पसंद हो तो चलेगा, or you like literary art or writing. If your answer is the former, that is merely a fascination, right? If your answer is the latter, that is where your passion lies. You are actually interested in the science or the art of that domain. So this passion versus fascination thing is very unique to our career choices. And that is something that you can often apply if there are people, youngsters at your home. This is one key takeaway that you can take. I mean, in the reference of making a more better career choice or a life choice, this passion versus fascination thing is beautiful, right? Also productivity. So Kalam Sahab often spoke about the gross domestic product, fiscal deficit. There is one national index that no one has spoken of till date, and that I want to speak at Tech Bhubaneswar because आप सब थोड़े young दिख रहे हो मेरे को. That is the gross breakup rate of the country. Gross domestic product बाद में आता है. Gross breakup rate. Number of breakups in relationships divided by the number of young people in 20s and 30s. And the answer would be staggering. Our generation is a generation of broken hearts. And this is leading to some terrible decisions. People make wrong career choices because of relationships. People, after they come out of a relationship, make even worse career choices. So this entire process is not good, right? So probably you need to break the trend. 20s, your entire DNA should quote to work hard, right? That is very important. And that I want each one of you to take away from here. Relationships will happen, can happen at a later point of time. but we should first focus on our career, because the amount of which the country is focusing, investing time and money, ROI कहाँ निकल रहा? इतना relationship में पैसा लगा दिया, time लगा दिया. There's no ROI, right? If you break up. So therefore, we should first focus on our careers, right? Also, rational thinking, because ये बड़ा important है. See, becoming a scientist and a man of scientific temper are two different things altogether. A great scientist need not be a man of a scientific temper. And that is what we need to inculcate. We are blindly following what the media feeds us, and especially what the Western media feeds us. We have to start critically thinking. How many of you think Bhagat Singh was a national hero and a great freedom fighter? How many of you think? Almost all of you. Now, how many of you think Mahatma Gandhi was an equally great freedom fighter? Usse kam haath hai, right? And how many of you think Narendra Modi will become the Prime Minister of India next year? How many of you think Rahul Gandhi will become the Prime Minister? And aap ye charon logon se mile ho, in charon logon se. So how are we trying to come up to this judgment? And Bhagat Singh and Gandhi, this is the classical falsehood that has been fed to us. They were great supporters and admirers of each other. In a letter by Bhagat Singh, written in the year 1930, he actually wrote that I am a man of Gandhian principles. I actually aspire to work under the patronage of Mahatma Gandhi. He actually wrote that in a letter. This is an entire false theory that has been floated in the media, and we do not research up to that extent. हम मान लेते हैं. That is where we lack, and that is where pseudosciences से हमें मुक्त होना है. Because rational thinking begins with the elimination of pseudosciences. Seen this guy? Probably the icon of pseudoscience ever. This guy can make shit up. If you haven't, इसका नाम नित्यानंद है. कोई जाके इसे निकालो धरती से, please. It's a request, right? But next Tech Bhubaneswar, let us talk that he has been assassinated, for God's sake. This guy is probably the single biggest shit to happen to mankind. Right? He has single-handedly distorted every form of science ever, right? So, and कौन है ये लोग जो इसको सुनते हैं यार? So this is where critical thinking happens, right? So if you still haven't, जाके search करना, right? ये जितना दिखता भीषण है, उससे ज़्यादा इसकी बातें भीषण है. So please, and that is where we need to think. And in fact, this across history, Indians का हमेशा से, our brain game has been number one in the world. That is why Sundar Pichai is heading Google today, and Larry Page and Sergey Brin are sitting home कि हम self-driving car बनाएंगे, हम hot air balloon से internet भेजेंगे. Because they know Sundar Pichai को काम पे लगा दिया, वो कुछ डूबने नहीं देगा. Right? Because they know that we can spend the rest of our time thinking and dreaming and discussing about AI and all those things. Because that is what Indians are known for. We are diligent workers. We are extremely intelligent at what we do. But then उसके साथ our belief system has to work in tandem. अब श्रीनिवास रामानुजम का example देखिए, brilliant mathematician, the greatest the world has ever known. But क्या हो गया? TB हो गया. भाई ने दवाई नहीं खाई. He was in Cambridge. He never had medicines because Brahmin, दवाइयों में पता नहीं क्या मिलाया होगा. 32 की उम्र में निकल लिया. So this entire concept has always been a detriment to our success, traditionally, historically, and that has to go, right? आप में से ऐसे कितने लोग हैं जो एस्ट्रोलॉजी और न्यूमरोलॉजी में मानते हैं? मानते हो तो बिंदास हाथ उठा दो. न्यूमरोलॉजी, भाई व्हाट फन डज दिस एंटायर थिंग हैव? जुपिटर के कारण मेरे कैरियर में कुछ नहीं हो रहा, बाकी मैं तो एक्सेलेंट हूं. वो some 1000 miles light years away there is a ball of gas in the solar system. This is every form of excuse that we give for whatever failure has happened in our life is actually a manifestation of the human ego. And ये probably Dr. साहब भी agree करेंगे. He would probably in fact go on to reiterate this. It is a manifestation of human ego. A ball of gas, Jupiter, is causing harm to me. So दिन में कोई काम नहीं है, चल आज इसकी मैं मारता हूं, मैं और कोई काम ही नहीं है. And अब न्यूमरोलॉजी देख लो. Actors, probably the worst role models we can ever have. They are not our heroes. Heroes तो वो है जो इसरो में 104 सैटेलाइट ऊपर भेज रहे, हमें उनके नाम भी नहीं मालूम है. And we actually follow these people in the Bollywood industry. They are the ones who are youth icons. They are the least possible human beings to be called as youth icons. यार, अब किसी को भी उठा के देख लो. Their personal lives are in mess. Their relationship statuses are in mess. Everything. It's just the glamour that is attracting the youth of the nation. And आप सबको देखिए. एक्टिंग एक तरफ, एक्टिंग वगैरह सब बढ़िया है, वो क्या है ना, थोड़ा नाम में गड़बड़ है तो न्यूमरोलॉजी लगा के सही कर लेते, बाकी मेरी एक्टिंग सब फर्स्ट क्लास है. दैट इज द मेंटालिटी, राइट? एंड आप हर एक का नाम देखिए, नो रितेश देशमुख इज रितेश, राइट? तुषार कपूर आप देखिए, उसने कपूर हटा दिया, ही गोज बाय द नेम टसहार, इफ यू फॉलो हिम एनीवेयर ऑन इंस्टाग्राम और ट्विटर, टसहार, एक एस लगा दिया, he removed Kapoor, the only thing that was working for him, right? आप अजय देवगन को देखिए, ए हटा दिया देवगन में से, now he's just देवगन, ए हटा दिया. What fun is this, right? So this entire concept I don't get. चार अंगूठी पहनने से कैरियर में कुछ बदलाव नहीं होने वाला. You have to work for it. So please don't let pseudosciences interfere with your intellect and rational thinking. Biggest takeaway that I can give to you. This has really helped me. मैंने कोई ज्यादा बहुत मैं भगवान में मानता हूं, बट इतना ज्यादा पूजा पाठ ये वो कुछ नहीं किया, and that has worked out well for me, and I'm sure it will work out well for you. So if there is a possibility that your life is not going well, self introspection is the key, right, rather than astrology or numerology. Okay, great. So our belief system and value system, guys, again, this is an alley in California. It's called the bubblegum alley, right? वहां पे क्या किया है लोगों ने, आप गूगल करके देख सकते हैं, they have just eaten bubblegums and stuck it in the valley, इस रोड में, and it has, कैलिफोर्निया ने इतना हाइप कर दिया, अमेरिका can market the shit out of everything, anything possible, and that is what they have done. And in India we are lacking the skill. We have better things to showcase, we have better things, but then we do not market it to the level that America has. And our value system, belief system is flooded by the Western media. It has always happened, and that has to go. I mean, even a couple days back, a lot of these articles that come, if you follow the comment section on YouTube, a lot of videos about how great India is, there will be foreigners writing, oh, I did not know this until now. They have a totally different perception of India, and that is because the Western media has fed it, and we are victims of that ourselves. And our core, that brings me to an important point, our core competency. So our core competency has been our gray cells, and we neglect that. हम ये Western media articles को लेके चलें, Rio Olympics, right? How many gold medals did India win? Not much. How many gold medals did USA win? Gold medal tally? Lot. Jamaican nations, Africa, what was the gold medal tally? Really high, right? Every single marathon, it's a Jamaican or a Negro sprinter in the front, right? It's never an Indian. But that's okay, because that's not our core competency. Ask them to write the IIT JEE or AIEEE or GMAT, and you will know what their core competency is. And when you compare the Olympics of the brain, the International Physics Olympiad, Maths Olympiad, Bio Olympiad, Chemistry Olympiad, every year there is an Indian student for the 500-year history of it who's been winning gold medals. But the Western media won't highlight that. Similarly, the National Spell Bee, right? Again, such a wonderful competition, and Indian students of the age group 7 to 8 win it every year, ace it every year. The Western media won't highlight that. So do not let your belief system be clouded by the Western media, right? And there's another beautiful concept that I often speak about, moonshot innovations. Because India ka jo hamara tech culture hai na, is called a rip-off culture. Every Yelp has a Zomato, every Uber has an Ola, every Airbnb has an Oyo Rooms. What are we innovating in the first place? We just replicate, we no longer innovate. We have forgotten the process of coming from 0 to 1. And that needs to come back into our tech culture, right? So this is one important thing. Ye maine 2016 mein bhi I had shared. It was the opening statement of my keynote back then. That moonshot innovations, right? If there is a huge problem, we find a radical solution and a breakthrough technology. And the union of that, these excess that we need to find for and solve in the society, a lot of gaps that we need to bridge. And that we are neglecting in the process of trying to replicate. So that has to go away. And then again, embracing our failures. So failure का मतलब ये नहीं कि हम class में bunk कर लें या हम college bunk कर लें या हम, and you just fail during our academic processes. You grow during these failures. So the last evening sir was mentioning, Natraj sir, that he had a realization of his own during a medical procedure. Similarly, I underwent a major operation in my knee, and that just opened me to a different side of life. And that made me realize that I need to push harder. So that's probably me with my mom holding my leg in an ambulance. And these experiences, you should embrace them rather than shelving them away that these are bad experiences, we need not think about it. This should really go into your belief system, and and ultimately all this needs to go into solving for India, because our national development is at stake. And this entire culture of trying to replicate and doing complacent work will not solve. So we need to bring all our technical competency into solving for India. So that's very important, right? And ultimately, if nothing works, jugaad will definitely work, right? And jugaad is, by the way, an internationally recognized phenomena, frugal innovation. Even Harvard has case studies on it. So it's something that we can totally take forward in the quest for, trying to solve for India. A lot of great things happened in my entrepreneurial journey. This is with the Telecom Minister of India. His name is Mr. Manoj Sinha. So with my startup, we also received the first spectrum license for Outernet in the country. I was from an absolutely normal middle-class family. It's just that I figured out this is the right way to solve for the digital divide in the country. We worked in that direction, and it's done well for us so far. So what we are trying to do in the bigger picture is, just like internet works on this entire mechanism of deep sea cables, we ultimately are trying to build the deep sea cable equivalent of satellite infrastructure. So there's this company that we have partnered with, it's called OneWeb. So you can probably go home and Google that up. What it's trying to create is this satellite Outernet infrastructure in what Earth orbit, LEO, the orbit right above the atmosphere. In that, we are trying to fill it with nanosats, microsats, and cubesats, because this is the only way we can address the digital divide in the future, right? Connect schools to the web, stay connected in emergencies, because the first thing that happens during emergencies is your poles will fall down, right? So a lot of great things that we have already done. We can continue to do this. This was the CubeSat that was launched later in 2015 as part of the mission that I told you about. A lot of good things happened, and in that process, I grew personally, I learned personally, I failed personally, and this entire journey has made me probably a better version of myself. And that is what we must all aspire to do, right? So ultimately, that brings me to almost the last segment of my keynote here today. I hope you guys had a good time, got to learn a few things. There were some important key takeaways that you could just probably apply to your life. There was this one statement that I often remember. So my internship was with Facebook some years ago. And back then at Facebook, there used to be these posters at the offices. One of the posters said, Orville Wright of the Orville Wilbur Wright duo did not have a pilot's license. That means because Orville Wright is the first man to ever fly. He did not wait for a pilot's license or for a DGCA approval or for Odisha state government approval or for Airports Authority of India approval. You have to go out, break some rules, carve a name for yourself. So that is what will lead to success. So there are better things to break in life, other than bones and relationships. Break a few rules, because that will really help you guys out, right? So, and that ultimately tells me that we should bring back our national conscience of patriotism, because patriotic bhavna jo hai na, desh prem, that is going up in our life, and that we need to bring back, because ab bhi jo khoon na khola, khoon nahi wo pani hai, jo desh ke kaam na aaye wo bekar jawani hai. So thank you so much. You can stay connected with me in all the traditional and modern ways ever possible. Don't send me a telegram because that has closed down. But everything else will work, and the rest of the contact details you can always take from the Tech Bhubaneswar guys. And Baki, I don't have anything specific against relationships. Go out, enjoy your life, right? And then there's always Jayant here, who can be of great help to you. Because dunya hasino ka mela, mile mein ye dil akela. So thank you so much.